In preparation for Alien Romulus, I decided to go back and watch the absolute masterpiece that is Alien. Alien came out in 1979. I had to go back. I had to see if it still holds up. Now, this came out 10 years before I was born, so I can't actually remember how old I was when I watched it the first time, but I knew it had a major impact on me personally. It was scary. Look, guys, at the time when I watched this, practical effects, VFX, that was the pinnacle of scary. That's why I still think when it comes to practical effects, that level of realism just adds another layer of intrigue to everything. And that's an art form that I feel it can't be scraped completely. Now, this movie, when I first watched it, I was amazed. And that's down to Ridley. Ridley knew exactly what he wanted to do with this movie. He went in, this feels like a indie movie, if I'm being honest, guys. If you think about back then, it's a big blockbuster. But it has all the design of an indie movie. Not too flashy. It keeps things simple. It's set in one specific location. And that is incredible. And Ridley had this idea of designing the ship sort of like a haunted house, He wanted the ship to be its own character. And it definitely shows in the movie. There's just something about the atmosphere in this movie that's just mind-blowing. It's an absolute classic, guys. Now, Sigourney Weaver, I have to say, after this was the movie that solidified Sigourney Weaver as a A-list actor, because she's not really doing much in this movie, but it's iconic. It's iconic. Seeing her walk through the corridors of the spaceship with the flamethrower, that is legendary, guys. When I look at this movie, there's been a lot of comparisons between Aliens and this movie. Look, guys, I still say that this is the superior movie, and the reason why I say that is because it came out in 1979, man, and it still holds up. The next movie came out in 1987. That's a long time. And I mean, James Cameron, he's always been somebody known for pushing the genre of cinema forward, so the gulf between the movies, they are massive, but stylistically they are so different that I feel like you can't even compare the two movies, and Ridley Scott is a director that he deserves a lot of credit. He deserves all the accolades, for Blade Runner, Alien, Gladiator. I don't think there's a director that has had a run. American Gangster. It's coming out with Gladiator 2. He's pumping out movies nonstop. The Martian. This guy is an absolute legend. He is in the top 10 of my favorite directors of all time. That's how good Ridley is. The fact that the movie itself is shrouded in mystery, I feel like that is what makes the movie so intriguing. Traveling to a remote location, investigating a crash site. You are thinking, you and the entire crew are convinced that this is a distress signal. No, it's not. It's a warning sign. Stay away. We are dealing with creatures here that you do not want to come into contact with. And this is where the infamous scene comes in. Facehugger scene. This absolutely terrified me, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Just the idea of something latching onto your face and impregnating you. If you hear that, it's insane, and actually seeing it, like, whoever came up with that idea is an absolute genius. Then you have the chest burst scene. I didn't even know what to think when I first saw that, guys. That was next level. At the time of watching this, I should have known that something was off with Ash. Stopping the crew from executing the Xenomorph, I should have known something was up with the guy. And, That's just how crazy it is to think that all these specific small details and things are stuff that you missed when you watched the movie back then. The fight sequence where they end up killing Ash and there's just milk everywhere. At least looks like milk, but holy moly, that is super disturbing, super disgusting. And it's actually funny because you can see where it's practical effects and then they have his face and head talking and then they switch between that the whole time. It's actually funny because it's so obvious to the eye, and looking at it now, it was revolutionary at the time. So some of the things now, if I really think about it, guys, some of the things are really funny, because of the practical effect element. I mean, even the Xenomorph design, if I look at it now, it's scary. It's imposing because, I mean, it's 10 feet, So having something that size lurking behind you, it still has that scare element to it. And I just think that this movie just holds up brilliantly, guys. There's a lot of memorable things in here. And when the Xenomorph is finally unleashed on the ship, this is where things kick into gear. And that is one critique I've always heard about the movie, is the fact that the first half of the movie is very slow. At times it can be tedious. People are very critical in terms of the pacing of this movie. But hear me out, guys. When it comes to the pacing of this movie, there's a reason why the pacing of this movie is the way it is, because it's a horror movie at the core. It's building up tension. The plot is progressing slowly, but things kick into gear. That moment where the Xenomorph just bursts out of his chest, that's the point of no return. That's when okay, like, look, we in the end game now, and from that scene, everything just goes into overdrive. And that's what I love about the movie. Like, Ridley took his time with this movie and he knew exactly what it was doing. And I feel like that is what makes the movie so intriguing. And I mean, it's a slasher movie at the end of the day. It's a classic slasher movie that just takes place on a spaceship. You have a group of friends and a crew, people getting chopped off the whole time. Funny enough, it's not that scary because most of the death sequences are off screen. But the reason why I say that adding that element to it makes it scary is the fact that if it happens off screen, it leaves you thinking, okay, like, how did this guy die? Like, how severe is it? Is it that bad? And I feel like that is a element that's missing in today's modern cinema, where I want to show you how the person actually dies. And that element of the unknown adds another layer to it. So if they can go back to that type of filmmaking when it comes to horror in this genre, that would be incredible, So, and even that iconic scene, it was weird watching the scene at the end with Sigourney Weaver and, when she's making an escape after detonating the ship, and the ship explodes and she's, riding off into the sunset. I didn't realize that scene was the way it was, stripping down, bare undies. Like, watching it now, I was like, what is happening, And then the iconic scene of the Xenomorph getting roasted by the ship. That's classic stuff, man. That's classic. And the design, I spoke before about the design of the Xenomorph, and I feel like the one reason I think this design holds up so well is the fact that the movement was slow, but you always had that thing of looking behind you, like something is lurking in the shadows. And that method of how the Xenomorph was created here is brilliant. Later on, the franchise would start turning into an action movie. And that's where I personally feel it has lost part of its, prestige, if I can say that, by going more action. And I feel like this has always worked very well as horror. So the fact that they got Fede Alvarez in for Romulus lets me know that they're going back to how this movie was stylistically. Now, if it will be as good as this, we still have to see, guys. But if they can use this movie as a blueprint, perfection, And watching this movie again, it's a reminder of why I love cinema. It's vintage, it's classic. The sound is, it's not clear, 100% clear. It's like crispy and distorted, and the production value, and it's an integral part. It's such an important movie in cinema, and it was directed by Ridley Scott. Like, science fiction owes a lot to this movie. Before this, we were just Star Wars, lightsabers. And when this came out, we were like, wow, we can actually have, science fiction horror, horror set in that environment. And that's down to the genius of Ridley Scott. And this movie, I can watch this movie all day, guys. It will still hit the same. And that's how you know a movie is a classic. It's a masterpiece of cinema. And I feel like this movie belongs in every category when it comes to the best movie ever. Whether you prefer Alien or Aliens, that's up to you guys. But I feel like if it wasn't for this movie, if it wasn't for what Ridley did here, Aliens with James Cameron wouldn't exist. And that's just me being honest. And the ending opened the door for that. There was rumors that they might have went with a different ending. And, when Ripley goes into cryo, and then the Xenomorph shows up and he just destroys the cryo chamber. But the fact that they left the door open with killing the Xeno at the end opened the door to an entire franchise, guys. I mean, Romulus is coming out, Alien, Earth. This is a franchise that can still go on for the next 60 years. I mean, it's legendary stuff, guys. The character, the design of the Xenomorph is so iconic. It's something that will be forever imprinted in your mind when it comes to cinema. Please let me know what you guys think about the original Alien movie. I would love to know what you guys think. What's your thoughts on the movie? This is just me, brainstorming right after watching the movie. And, how it's like, this is almost like an immediate reaction, of what I think about the movie again after watching it after so long, I can't even remember the last time I watched it, guys, but it's brilliant stuff. Sigourney Weaver as Ripley is iconic. Female heroine, genius. Ridley Scott, design, production value, director, like everything just works so well in this movie, guys. I'm not gonna lie, and it's an absolute classic of cinema. Let me know, guys. That's it for me. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Catch you on the next video.